Hey, what's up, guys? I'm trying to get back in the routine of live streaming on Sundays, guys. And my goal, guys, especially with the name change of Rapture Church that I made months ago, guys, I want to get into not only a tangible retail space for those that worship on Sundays as Christians, but also a better platform for the online community and a better way of doing online church as well. And of course, as technology advances, guys, a better way to interact with each other online in a more, inclusive. And what I mean by inclusive is not only just a welcoming atmosphere, but like um, you feel more together, even though you're, further away. So software or something that is developed where you can actually see a live video of everyone in the community watching the online church service. And then guys, I have hopes of even bringing, you know, um, some sort of live online church exclusive experience um, on this YouTube channel. Especially bringing in other people as well, and other formats of reaching and talking to you guys. And so that's just a brief little description of, why you may see me pop on live streams, especially scheduled little live streams. Um, and also Saturdays, guys. What I've been trying to do is consistently, kind of upload on Saturdays as well, especially for the, members of the church that, do kind of hold to a Sabbath style Saturday keeping. If they may want to see a, unique style Saturday live stream. So, anyway, today, guys, I wanted to kind of, really go over some possibilities of the rapture. Now, guys, I wanted to thank God and wanted to remember this is, AI, guys, sometimes is not necessarily giving you its opinion on what you're talking about. So AI is great, guys, but it's just, you know, if you're especially creating with AI, guys, it's important to realize that, it doesn't necessarily have a personal bias in some of the results that it's giving you. So it may be leaning towards one side or another opinion, depending on the wording that you use, guys. And so, you may see some AI videos out there or what videos you suspect of AI saying, in a more kind of direct way, like, oh, the Bible doesn't mention the rapture, and it's a kind of a common misinformation. And because of the way AI, relays, the way AI tells us information, the tone of their voice, or, it's kind of a more like accept this information type of, this is truthful, in that type of tone, which is not necessarily bad all the time, but, I'm just saying we still have to remember that, they're still developing AI, to get more and more perfected, guys. And so don't always accept, maybe the teaching that, oh, there is no rapture, and then you kind of don't, look it up for yourself. Now, I've done plenty of videos, guys, on the topic of a pre-tribulation rapture, guys, or just the rapture in general. And so we'll get started. This should be a kind of, mid-length video here, for as far as Whenever I go on these Sunday live streams, guys, I try to keep it around an hour or less. Now, if my wife joins me on live streams, guys, which she has in the past, guys, um, then you know it may be like a little bit longer in style. But anyway, the point of that is you know try to stay tuned and kind of keep on your schedule. Sundays around this time, guys, you can expect a online church kind of experience developing as this ministry grows. And so that's been one of my goals, guys, is to really expand this ministry. And so, anyway, in topics of the rapture, now, guys, what I have a few different kind of routes in thinking when it comes to the rapture. That again, I highly recommend looking up, past videos that I've done on the rapture, guys. But I don't think it's always a wise opinion to completely write off the rapture, for one, but two, to completely write off the possibility of a pre-trib rapture. And, especially for younger Christians, there could be a certain reason behind that because of, their willingness, so to speak, to, overcome sin or something like that. And so, in my opinion, there still seems to be more biblical verses talking about a pre-trib rapture when you sort of, read all the Bible verses in the New Testament about that. Now, again, I think the concept of, I'd like to say this lately too, is the concept of actually, disappearing and then like, going up into heaven, guys, I think is way, more crazy than we actually think about, guys. Now, again, on this channel, guys, I've seen enough Bible verses where I do understand that the Bible does talk about being caught up to meet the Lord in the air, which is what I call the definition of the rapture. Now, some people may call the rapture, you know, the return of Jesus to the earth. And then even if you want to talk about maybe non-Christians, but their definition of the rapture is sort of the end of the world. Movies like 2012, they have a little line in there where he's like, describing what's happening in an end of the world scenario. And he said, oh, Christians call it the rapture. And so anyway, there can be some misunderstandings about the word rapture. And so that's what I'm focusing on today's little, live stream segment. And so, guys, my name is Ben. I've been studying the Bible, especially, in a serious manner for a while now, guys. I'm currently in Bible college, finishing up my first and hopefully second half degree, guys, in the Bible. Just because I do think, just as there's a huge call in our society, especially in America, for people to kind of mandatorily almost go to college or to the secondary half of kind of their education system, even though we don't, in general, at all make college mandatory in our society. But just like people do sort of suggest highly to go to college, I think that same thing, and maybe in a mandatory way, if you really look at certain Bible verses, of taking our Bible study further, and that's the whole point. Now, some can do it structured, like, hey, I'm going to go to a college and then, get a certificate. I think that's awesome. That's kind of the route that I am sort of thinking is more important for my life, and my lifestyle. but you know, um, there are some people who kind of take um, um, some people just like a little Q&A that just popped up. I was like, I thought it was a comment, but anyway, um, there is you know, what was I saying? I thought I was gonna just look at that comment, but I was like, um, sorry guys. Sometimes I lose like my thought process, when trying to explain things. But anyway, I am, guys. That brings me up to the point that I was wanting to make too. Is that, guys? I'm on live streaming on my phone, so if I get disconnected in some way, guys, I will try to, reconnect the live stream, guys. Also, guys, if you visit my website, WASHYE.com, I am in the process of improving that website to you guys even more. So some of the links, like especially on the secondary homepage, may be running slow or the pictures are loading slow, guys. And so I do want to try to improve the website too. Okay, I remember what I was saying. So I do recommend everyone in the church going to Bible college is what I was trying to say. I do think that it should be sort of a, mandatory kind of way of thinking of, hey, I'm going to further my education because, guys, if you don't know, when you start studying the Bible, there are actually more and more things, even though it's just one book, so to speak, there are branches of what you can study, and especially when you start studying sort of based off of one or two Bible verses, and like you start studying what it can mean. Those are some of the benefits of expanding your education on the Bible. And so, guys, I already thankfully have um, earned at least a paper telling me I have an advanced, study of the New Testament, guys. And so, you know, anyway, I'm 33 years old, guys. I've been married for about 6 years now. Um, I live near Seattle, Washington, uh, and you can check out more about this ministry and all the plans that God has kind of placed on my heart, and in trying to serve Jesus Christ, um, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and also what I've been trying to do lately, guys, is sort of step up my game in regards to how I'm ministering and my Christian witness, guys. And so, anyway, back to the rapture. If you study the rapture, guys, you will see that, yes, it's good to, kind of take other people's opinions on it, but the Bible does clearly, describe in essence, a time where either in our body or out of our body, like kind of like Paul said, a time where we basically fly to heaven, guys. That's what most people, when talking about the rapture, agree to is that, they you will sort of, fly to heaven. Um, and so that concept can be, sort of, if you really think about it happening in reality, guys, it can be sort of like, whoa, like, kind of the first word that comes to mind is, kind of a, disturbing, shocking thing that could, if you're thinking about it in a real sense. So I do want to remind people of that. Like, I think a lot of times, when we're even as Christians talking about the Bible and stuff, we can sometimes talk about it, in a kind of non-realistic way. And so, anyway, in light of that, guys, and in light of just different reports of what is going on in the world right now, guys. One of the things that I've been saying lately, and I really attribute this kind of thinking to a video made by Britt Gillette, guys. He had a video. I discovered him on YouTube a while ago, as far as kind of end times based channels, and his stood out, for kind of the authentic look. And so, anyway, in one of his videos, he had kind of a you know um, online question and answer video style, where he's like, you know, um, even though we talk about the rapture, should we be, preparing for kind of the everyday craziness that we can sort of be faced with in the world, as far as the entire, population of the earth, and especially in America, the things that are possible, as far as what we could call climate change, guys. Now, these days, more and more people, they used to kind of debate whether the whole climate change thing was true. Now it's more and less not a debate, like either both sides, whether you like calling it climate change, or maybe if you're religious, you'd like calling it more an act of God or something like that. Are more people are collectively seeing that the weather is getting more and more crazy, for people who are in certain areas, especially. But that's what also Jesus said would happen, guys. And so I do try to tell people, guys, that I do think that, one of my personal plans, which will just me explaining it, will help you kind of understand my opinion on the pre trib rapture, is to, sort of start preparing for different bad scenarios happening, and especially in your parts of the world. Now, this concept is, especially in financial terms, is called having an emergency fund. And I think in terms of the rapture, this is called having an emergency plan. Now, this is important, guys, because even in the New Testament itself, guys, it declares that we as people can have a misunderstanding. Even if the Bible says it in what we call plain language, we can have a misunderstanding about what God's ways are and what He does. And as far as knowing what's happening in the future, guys. And so, especially in my personal life, guys, one of the things that I have, discovered is the importance of having an emergency plan, and, having backups, to help you, because we don't always know what's around the corner, even though we can sort of live our lives in kind of some sort of routine or something like that. And so, I talk about on this channel ways that I, both in our YE community, want to, prepare. But what I say also is just like start to think about, what you can do to have an emergency plan, for when things, especially biblically, um, are starting to happen, and you may be sort of, having a pre-trib mentality, yet, you're not necessarily prepared for emergencies that may have the possibility of arising before Jesus returns. And so, that's pretty much, kind of what I wanted to say about that, guys. Because, I've sort of, seen a little bit more than my um, 2024 year. Like, I feel like 2025 has been kind of a year where I've learned more than my year in 2024. And so, that's when I was kind of a thinker of, hey, um, God is saying this in the rapture. But I do want to, bring about, how, people's homes are being destroyed by tornadoes, guys. People's homes are being smashed or something by, mudslides. And, this kind of, thing introduces us to kind of what Jesus said is the birth pangs that are happening in the world, guys, where, more and more places are becoming unstable. Or it may not necessarily be about your home, but just your very, um, kind of safety needs to be heightened as far as the things that you're doing to prepare for civil unrest, guys. We're seeing more and more, kind of places in the world. One of the things as a reminder is, I think especially, when we look at history, recent history, guys, we are one of the unique generations to be able to, collectively, see and communicate what is happening in different parts of the world, guys. And so a lot of these places, we see some tragic things going on, now that we, have cameras and we can see kind of live stream, what's happening in certain regions. And so Jesus is saying, hey, these are the birth pains, of his return. And so, I just highly recommend, checking out some of the videos on my channel, guys, in regards to this topic. But, you know, even sort of starting to shift your thinking as, um, even though this is kind of what people don't like doing, I'm kind of one of those people is, at least often, having to change homes, moving or change regions. I think we as human beings sometimes like have this kind of like desire all the time to at least have a steady kind of home, permanence, so to speak. Like, even though, people do have multiple homes and stuff. But anyway, um, I'm just trying to bring up the point that, you might have to start looking at radical ways you can move from certain areas, guys. One of the things that I realize, guys, is that, even though you may face a problem like, oh, I don't have money to do this or that, or I don't have a way to get out of this situation, especially when you, take the power of calling on Jesus Christ to aid in your problem or, remembering to call on him continually, your eyes can be opened to different resources that you may not have known existed to aid in, the goal that you're trying to do, guys. And so even if you do have to, come to that revelation like, okay, I need to find more and more resources to leave this region of the world. Maybe just, of course, praying about this, but also really doing some research, because I think I was talking to AI about this, guys. It was either AI or someone else that I maybe saw a video online or something where there are programs. No, that's what it was. No, it was a business video online, guys. And like he mentioned that certain parts of this world have regions where they will pay you to move to that region. And so I've personally been thinking about utilizing resources like that, guys, where certain places want, innovators or something to be in their area to boost their economy. And so, if you could utilize some sort of service or resource like that to, especially if you have a family, to move to a better region of the world, even if you're like really far out there and you're not in the United States. But even if those of us who are in the United States, which I do believe is, one of the greatest countries, at least in our modern age thus far, now it doesn't come close to, the millennium that Jesus is going to provide for us, guys, especially if we try to fight with all of our heart, guys, the unbelief that can come up in our hearts, guys, about, God, about who God is, about God and the Bible versus other religions and lifestyles and mindsets. Jesus is promising us that he is going to fix, all of these different issues and problems that we face in this world. But thankfully, God the Father is greater than all, guys. And so there is an importance about that knowledge that Jesus shares with us multiple times, that God the Father is greater than all, guys. And so, even though we are supposed to honor the Son, we have to remember to honor the Father too, and contribute, that God has all things under control. And so, especially when talking about the rapture, guys, don't let your anxiety get to you. But anyway, I do think that, as far as how to prepare, as much as you can, you know you may have to really, be that set apart mind style and lifestyle in your community, so to speak, um, just to make a better way for you and your family. And so I do think this type of video, even though it may seem obvious, of like, yeah, obviously if I could move, I would. But, some solutions, if you are able, especially in the United States, you may not even think about this, guys, is literally walking, literally, like, see, because this is why United States is kind of in our mindset are so different. And I think I especially recommend walking, so to speak, in the United States. you know, in these certain countries, guys, we've seen this even and as far as Ukraine, guys, of people having to mass exodus just by walking, guys. And I've seen this in multiple parts of the world, at least within the last 4 years, guys, of this happening. When you talk about a mass exodus that has been going on, especially in Ukraine, Sudan, for us in America, guys, especially for just our set of problems of like maybe a fire broke out and like I think it's called the Pacific Palisades in California, or like Hawaii, where you have these different natural disasters, guys. But there could possibly be some of our own United States citizens, guys. What I've discovered, guys, about United States citizens, guys, is that there is really a gap, as far as some of the things that people are just not aware of, being open to them or a possibility. There's real kind of need, I think, when Jesus tells us to, spread the gospel, to talk to people. Um, what I've seen is there actually is a need to share, very vital information. And especially here in America, still, even though there is the invention of the internet, guys, I think there is a huge segment of people that are just not utilizing the internet to, um, you know, uh, its potential in regards to, getting information. There's so much, many things that I'm still like blown away. Like, I did not know that even existed, dude. And so, especially have many people that, if they're on YouTube, maybe they spend all their time, watching certain types of videos instead of, maybe educational videos, especially for the younger generation. And so, anyway, I'm getting sort of off track, but I do think that, we should prepare for just the natural kind of side of life, but including wars and rumors of wars, guys, and including tornadoes or landslides, or you live in a more fire prone area, guys. Starting to sort of analyze a little bit more some of the details of life, guys. And kind of like trying to recognize what's going on as much as you can. But anyway, so the second half of this video, we made it to about 30 minutes now, guys. Thank God. Um, hey, hit that like and subscribe button for anyone still watching, but so I wanted to talk about the possibility of the pre-trib rapture again, guys. I think it's been about, a couple months or so since I've done a video on this, I think. And especially for those channels that, do kind of make it their main channel of the rapture, they post a lot of videos of the rapture. And I think that was kind of my leaning towards, creating Rapture Church, guys, especially in a, kind of, retail, literal place that you can go, is sort of leaning towards talking about the rapture and educating people on the rapture, guys, itself. Kind of a niche market too. Just because I do think there's a lot of demand on those videos, on those YouTube channels, especially that focus only on the rapture, and so I do feel that, when I pray or read scripture or try to understand more about a pre-trib rapture, guys, in my personal opinion, we should be thinking in our brains that yes, there is a possibility, more than a possibility, of something that dramatic happening right before the tribulation, guys. Now, here's another thing that I haven't necessarily thought about before, guys, is coincidences and timing, guys, of things. Have you ever heard of like, wow, that's such good timing, like, or you say something, you say the same thing with someone at the same time, and you're like, oh, jinx, you owe me a soda. And so, like, there's kind of like that little phrase that we say as Americans when you kind of say the same word as someone at the same time. And so, anyway, as far as, how we have clues of how God operates sometimes, Noah story is, kind of a precise story where, God timed it. I think it tells us like Noah entered the ark only 7 days before, the flood waters actually, sort of hit the earth. And so it happens to be a number of 7, guys. There's a whole group of people that do a numerology study in the Bible, guys. That's one of those things when I was talking about earlier of how, there's different kind of branches that the Bible leads us to and study, learning more about God, and so anyway, is there a possibility of a rapture happening like, right before the tribulation, guys? Like the timing of like, maybe we see the whole nations, up in arms. Maybe there's, just constant riots in the streets, and it spreads and everywhere and stuff. And they're still buying and selling, planting and building like Jesus said there would be. But yet we see also just kind of some sort of constant birth pain of the baby is here, so to speak, or God's major event of pouring out his wrath is here. And we see all the signs. And is the rapture going to happen right at that particular timing? Well, my personal opinion, especially from some of my experiences lately, guys, is yes. Sometimes I do believe the Bible is actually saying that the rapture will happen in that manner, you guys. And the timing of the rapture, you know, uh, you know, can be equated to some of the Bible verses where Paul says, "We are not appointed to wrath," or it says, in the Gospels, Jesus tells us to pray to be counted worthy to escape all that will happen, so you may stand before the Son of Man. And then, guys, there's this concept that I've been learning more about, guys, or wanting to learn more about, maybe, is the concept of letting the Bible interpret the Bible. And so, when you look at some of the style of understanding, who the tone of the Bible. For example, in Revelation 3:10, yes, it is written to a specific church, and it does seem to be a church maybe in the past or the future. There needs to be an understanding of kind of how the Bible is written to understand why someone may interpret a Bible verse to be speaking to us here in the future. And so it, understanding that, the Bible declares that God tells us the end from the beginning. And so that concept itself should be studied, guys, because that's a crazy sort of phrase. There's kind of like these crazy phrases in the Bible, guys. And so, anyway, one of those things is, understanding that, the Bible is, declaring certain passages to be applied to us even today in 2026, guys. And so I've heard pastors talk, especially one pastor, one of my top list pastors, Pastor Bob Yandian, where he says, yeah, just because you have the book of Romans, for example, that is written to the Romans church, it's has relevant information that can be applied to our lives today. And obviously, God is still intending for the Bible to be relevant today, guys. There's no kind of like updated information, so to speak, in regards to just the revealing of new discoveries. At least when we talk about the process of finding the Bible, we're not uncovering just new modern discoveries from people in the past of like, hey, God, had me write this, other Bible verse that's updated or something. Like, the way the Bible is written, guys, it, especially when you understand what's going on, of the Holy Spirit living within you, and thinking about it in a present tense, guys, we understand that the Bible, even though you may have a book that's, declared to the Romans, it is still meant for every kind of time period on this earth, and it's meant to apply to us, to the church today. Now, obviously, people may know that, but you can forget that sort of when thinking about verses like Revelation 3:10, where, Jesus is promising clearly that group of people to be protected from the hour of trial that will come on the whole world And when you look at the kind of the phrase and the context behind that, guys, you see that he's clearly talking about the biblical tribulation. In the book of Revelation, that is, you know, connected to all the other Bible passages that talk about this time period where God, pours out His wrath at the end of time, at this time segment, at least, of eternity. So, um, check out my videos, guys, on reasons why I lean towards a pre-tribulation rapture. But this is one thing I've been trying to remind, my slowly but thankful subscribers, that like talking about the rapture, is just understanding that, I kind of want to be in a bunker, you know, and have all my, ducks in a row for surviving any part of the tribulation. Even though, yes, I am a person that, subscribes to a pre tribulation rapture, because I do believe that is what the Bible tells us. And especially, I haven't done a video on this in a while, guys. And the good part is, I've been asking God to help with this YouTube ministry, guys, to trying to change up, the topic of videos that I've been doing, but just a whole, revamp, guys, especially in my own personal character too, guys, because, anyway, well, I won't share the because of that, but anyway, when you look at the Bible, verses of God's wrath in that time period, you see that there is a group that can escape, especially when you look at Bible chapters like the Matthew 25 foolish virgins and wise virgins, guys. And when you look at the interpretation of that parable, guys, you see that, Jesus is declaring, a separation between some that are just taken into heaven and some that are left behind, which where, the movie of Left Behind comes from. Even though, yes, maybe that movie is not meant to be taken, kind of as a direct interpretation of what the Bible says will happen. So I'm just saying, with my revelation of like, wow, war is getting closer and closer to our door, and these problems are sort of, expanding, it seems like, maybe we should start thinking as God gives us time and as the rapture, has not taken place yet, we should be preparing for that. Now, another kind of turn that as I kind of get to the last part of this live stream here, guys. And again, join me, Sundays, I will try to stick with the regular schedule, guys. But, anyway, the last thing I wanted to talk about is, the concept of how the Bible does connect in some level, the way that we act to our relationship with thinking about the future, guys. And so if you are sort of having a mindset that, oh, I'm not really thinking about Jesus's return, or maybe you're not necessarily walking correctly or that serious with God, especially, even though you may be saved, maybe you can utilize your time to get more rewards in heaven, or, maybe you can utilize your time to store up more treasure in heaven, or, maybe you can utilize your time to make a greater impact on the community around you. There are different things that, we can be doing with our God-given time. And one of those may be, at least what I want to do, guys, is, start preparing for what we as society call shifting times in our world, guys.
I mean, even from an employment standpoint, guys, um, I do think it's true that some of us might need to change the types of jobs that we are pursuing, our skills that we have. When I hear people say this, at least it sort of makes sense to me that if there are going to be more AI jobs, guys, we may have to start shifting what we're learning about in order to kind of keep up with the demand for these jobs. Um, but also, guys, there is this concept of you know um, just acting prepared for the rapture, so to speak, which the Bible calls being wise versus being foolish. And Jesus says it like, hey, are you building your house on the rock and keeping up with your house and maintaining your house, or is your house built on the sand and in need of maintenance? And so I think thinking about the rapture, or really just thinking about the return of Jesus and the judgment seat of Christ, and kind of actively working on your spiritual relationship with God, there seems to be a connection to that, and I believe the pre-tribulation rapture concept as well. And so, on some note, though, guys, this is a niche topic, so to speak. I think within the Christian church, even though some people can be upset that, maybe the church does not talk about the rapture a lot, or, does not necessarily mention end times in every sermon, or like we have noticed that some churches focus on certain parts of the Bible than others. Collectively, I do think that you know the 2026 possibilities of the rapture are real. Now, um, I do want to keep this around an hour, guys. And so I want to end this live stream on talking about the actual possibility of the rapture happening this year in 2026. So I know you can kind of read the title of this live stream that way as well. And so I do believe that, to God, maybe I do sort of think, at least from what I hear about how God operates, um, and certain passages in the Bible point to this, that God Himself may be sort of keeping to a certain schedule in regards to when the timing of the rapture is. And because Jesus talked to us about looking at the signs of the times, and Jesus introduced us to the concept of preparing for the future. um, you know um, I do think there is more and more civil unrest that I'm just becoming more and more aware of, guys, and shocked by, in 2026. And I do think this has a connection to the increase of knowledge that Daniel prophesied about in his book, where, you know, um, because we have access to see more and more of what's going on in the world, guys, these days, um, you know, we can take a better measure, um, than maybe even Noah in his time, guys, where he may not have necessarily had the same way of kind of looking at data to see kind of what crime statistics are like or something, to see kind of what the weather is doing in parts of the world, and to make an analysis on, wow, are we getting closer and closer to the end times? And so, because in 2026, we have the recordings of Jesus we have the recordings of what he told us to look for in the signs of his return. And when you compare, really what other church validated church members, say within the church, that, signs of the times are really increasing, then I do think 2026 should be more time than ever to be preparing for a pre-trib rapture. Even if you don't believe in a pre-trib rapture, you may believe in a mid-trib rapture or post-trib rapture. I highly recommend, as I end this video, guys, is to prepare mentally for a pre-trib rapture. And if you can, prepare as if there is no pre-trib rapture by also getting a bunker or getting supplies in place or relocating or doing something with your life to prepare for what you perceive is your interpretation of end times and the return of Jesus Christ. So, hey guys, that's it for me for this live stream today. Um, Thank you so much for those that are interested in the rapture. Hopefully this was a helpful video, guys. And I will piggyback off of a new channel that I discovered on YouTube recently called Ear to Hear. And he said, we need to prepare because we never know when we're going to leave this earth, by rapture, or by rupture, meaning like either by death or being, somehow supernaturally, taken into heaven like Enoch. Whether by those two ways, we need to prepare. So thanks so much, guys. Check out WASHYE.com. Also, guys, if you want to join financially into, a eternity business and ministry, guys, see, one of the concepts, guys, is I'm trying to think about our place in the kingdom of God as well, just like Jesus told us to do, guys. A lot of concepts that, I'm trying to think of for, kind of my impact in the church and stuff. And, what I feel like God's will is for my life. I do need, that support, guys. And one of the ways you can is either by, liking and subscribing, maybe sharing this channel if you think, this channel and is interesting and this business is and ministry is interesting. But also, guys, I have the setup in place and, pretty much the platform and everything in general in place to receive financial input, guys. So if you feel like you want to join financially into this ministry, guys, I can definitely tell you what immediate needs, and I can really try to do a video on that maybe today of the immediate needs of YE Company and Ministries in order to advance the kingdom, guys. And then, guys, of course, I do think that, in the concept of the tithe, guys, I've done a video on the tithe. I do think that in that same spirit, I do want to, what we call, I guess, partition, any financial donations to impact those that are marginalized or poor, and so maybe poor in spirit and not necessarily poor financially, but also, poor in lifestyle as well. And so, I think that is what God is interpreting. It's no secret that, we're supposed to, as Christians, be, the concept is interwoven throughout the New Testament to help the marginalized. And so that's a little bit about what I'd like to do with this ministry, guys. One of the videos that I highly recommend is checking out the video called YE Uplift. And I think in YE Uplift video, you can find by searching, is the concept of, how YE Company can build products and services with a Christian foundation, of course, as a company, as far as our Christian witness in the business world. But definitely, guys, I have videos on how to do that. You know, I want to come from, and because we're trying to reach people with the gospel, but because also in light of the concept of Jesus telling us to not cast our pearls before swine, so to speak. I do want to impact the world through business and ministry, through different products and services that we can offer people. And so, guys, check out WASHYE.com, guys, on the homepage, guys. Even though it may take a while, or you might have to hit refresh to get some of the pictures to load, guys. One of the things that I've done is through pictures and videos, I've tried to explain, some of the pursuits that WASHYE, wants to do. Now, one thought that I've also had, guys, is maybe doing a little, maybe like, what is it called? Collage of videos explaining, what YE wants to be involved in over the lifetime of YE, and then maybe like an eternity style video. Even though, of course, we don't fully know, what all our position or job will be like in heaven. But, anyway, guys, please donate to this ministry, guys. I want to be a trusted source of your financial input, guys. I have thought of new ways to be more transparent in the use of finances in regards to ministry, guys. I do think that is one cry of the church, guys, is to have more visibility on where their financial input is going, and more transparency in regards to what's being done with their money and how it, is impacting them as well, and their relationship with God in regards to, how they're using their money and what ministry they're giving their money to. It is actually important. And so, some of the things that I've thought of in regards to that is, especially, guys, I am starting to build more and more of a team. Again, this is a startup ministry and business, guys, but there are some good reasons not to despise the days of small beginnings, guys. And so, in order to help with trying to be more transparent, especially when I start to receive donations more, guys, is to, maybe live stream team meetings, guys, on this platform where you can see what we're doing behind the scenes, guys. But even having little in-person meetings and reveals to customers of their impact, but also, guys, grouping more and more into smaller needs where a tithe or offering is going, instead of, just asking in general every week or something for, hey, give your tithe here. Maybe having, especially with the invent and advancement of software, guys, maybe I can, have a system in place where, you can literally give in a subject or area of ministry or business that you directly want to, and having more options to do that and see where your financial input is going, guys. So I definitely want to be a part of one of those ministries out there that I know are out there, guys, that are trying to be, more upfront and truthful in where their finances are going, guys. And I'm also trying to take my position as a minister, especially online minister, and in-person minister, more serious as well. And so thank you, guys. I'll talk to you later. Hopefully this was helpful to someone. See ya.